I've been recording.
Recording started on my end. Everyone good?
Yeah.
Yep.
Everyone recording?
Yep.
I have to clap quietly.
Chris?
Yeah.
We're clapping in 1, 2, 3. Clap. That was terrible. Let's try again. Okay, 3, 2, 1, clap. 3, 2, 1. Good luck with that, Matt.
We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it.
Hello and welcome to the pod. I am Tom Kookaburra Kennedy, joined by Matt Memorabilia Carvalho, Chris Bun Bun Palumbo, and Dan Tabernac Losier. We are the Groovy Guys, and this is Crate Expectations. This is the first of a podcast series where we'll choose a topic and dig deep into our collections to share something that fits. We'll also be talking more generally about record collecting and music news and tackling a hot topic each episode. And this all started with the 30-day vinyl challenge from Dynalone Records. Chris brought us all together and we had a WhatsApp group going where we would share a record every day. And we just had so much fun, we decided we'd do a pod. We hope you guys enjoy it. If not, it'll just be a bit more fun for us to share our passion for collecting records. Might just start by introducing ourselves and I guess our focus on record collecting. For me, I've been collecting for about 10 years, and my original focus was kind of on Australian music and Australian bands, and just kind of original pressings, secondhand pressings of classic rock. Matt, what about yourself?
I've been collecting for about 20 years now. I primarily focus on modern and classic rock and all at eras of hip hop.
Chris, what about you?
I started collecting when I was gifted a ton of records from my dad, and he gifted me a turntable in our retro basement. And from there, whenever I'd go to shows, I'd just pick up a record. So lots of can rock, lots of modern music. Pretty much anytime I can get go to a show, I pick it up as a souvenir. So it's a hobby that I just keep adding to.
Nice. Losier?
Yeah, I'm kind of same as Chris. My dad and I were bonding over classic rock, and he pulled his record player and some of his records out of the attic. But the records he pulled out of the attic were all warped. So we started collecting together about 20 years ago, where we'd go to all the thrift stores. He would bring home records from his buddies. Since then, I've gone into multiple different genres where I had a bit of a hip hop phase, or started collecting a few hip hop records. Right now, my main focus in collecting is jazz records. Mostly, I'm trying to find original or early releases. Some of the earliest releases are very, very sought after and hard to find. But that's where my sort of focus is right now.
Nice. Yeah, I should point out too, my first record player and my first record were both from my dad as well. And that's where my passion started, chasing down, going on digs with my old man. So for this... Oh, sorry, Matt, you go.
Sorry, it's all good. I was going to say my first turntable is from my dad as well.
Nice. That's awesome. So for this first episode, as I said, we're picking a topic and then sharing a record for our collection. And we've chosen the entirely undaunting topic of introduce yourself with a record. So let's jump in. Matt, what do you got for us?
All right. So for today, I've got Commons B, one of my favorite hip-hop records. I love everything about this album. Production is top-notch. Kanye pretty much produces the entire thing. You got John Legend on here as well, along with John Mayer for features. Pretty sweet. Kanye makes a guest appearance himself as well. A lot of people might know this, but just in case they don't, the song The Food is actually a live recording instead of the studio version. They took the live recording from the Dave Chappelle show, I believe it was off season 1, and used that as the actual audio for the album, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I had no idea Kanye produced that record.
Yeah, he pretty much did the entire thing. It's kind of cool. Early Kanye is very soulful, a lot of sampling. As Tom, I think I know you've listened to this record. We've talked about it a little bit. You talk about how there's a lot of like jazz and stuff and elements in this as well. He used to do a lot of that way back in the day, and you can definitely hear it all over the album. It's sprinkled real nicely throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, and I guess that's like Kanye's genius, right? Like just blending so many different genres.
Oh yeah,
into the works that he had so much hands-on in the production. Like honestly, now that I'm thinking about listening to that record and knowing that he produced it, it's like how did I not know that?
Yeah. Well, sorry, go ahead, Tom.
I was just going to say the instrumentation and the samples throughout it, like it's a masterful production.
Yeah, you could tell even by some of the like the high pitched vocal samples and stuff that he uses. He's like famous for that. He's done it on Through the Wire. He's done on so many big songs of his. But I think Through the Wire might be one of his more well known ones that he's done it on because it was a big single for him. So, sorry, go ahead, Tom.
What were you going to jump into biggest track? And
yeah, so for me, I'm gonna have to go with one of like the lead single off this one, which was The Corner. Love that song, specifically the third verse. Just the way he rhymes in that third verse, just beautiful. The next one I'm gonna have to go with is Testify. I love the story that he tells. Everything about that song is just very, very nice.
I have to agree with you. Testify. I was not a Common fan until you introduced this record. And I was driving in the car, and it's just like such a good driving song.
Oh yeah, very windows chill, down, very laid back.
Yeah, windows down, just chill. And I was like, even my wife was like, "You don't listen to Common," and I was like, "This is a good song. I thoroughly enjoyed it."
I love when the chorus hits, and it's like the vocals like "Before you lock my love away." Love that. Gets me every time.
I got myself head bobbing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You nailed it with the driving song. Sorry, Dan. You nailed it with the driving song too, Chris. Like I put it on Spotify the other day and was just listening to it when I was cruising around town, and it's perfect for just like a chill drive.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the beauty of this record is that it's really digestible hip hop. If you're not a big hip hop fan, it's easy for you to get into it because of that blend of all these genres. Like it almost toes a fine line of R&B and hip hop.
Yeah,
and it's not too gangster rap. It's not too like trap rap. It just fits a really great sort of. I don't know what to say. Like it fits so nicely into this more melodic type of music where it's not just so lyric heavy and rhyme heavy.
So is that Kanye's doing or is that Common's doing?
I think it's a bit of both, actually. I think the production and the lyrics kind of complement each other nicely. Common kind of just, he gets a different flow for every single song. Kind of speaking to what you just mentioned, Dan, you listen to a song like Love Is off that album, and it almost feels like, a late 80s, early 90s, like hip hop / R&B beat. It's got such a nice feel. Again, a good like head bobber. You listen to the lyrics like, oh, this is like, it just hits that sweet spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like it's like right down the middle, you know what I mean? Like just a nice lane. It just sticks there the entire album. Even like, hang on, what's the ending of the album? It's Your World Part 1 and 2 is another perfect example of that. Just, so nice.
You've hit the nail on the head there. Sorry, Chris, you go and then I'll go.
I feel like it doesn't age. Like it doesn't, when I'm listening to it, it doesn't feel like, oh, this was like early or late 80s rap. It doesn't feel like it was early 90s rap. It has that like good blend of, it fits any era. It could have came out last year and I would have been like, that's a good song sort of thing. 100%. And I think in rap especially, that's really hard to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you look, I mean, especially in the mid 2000s, I find you can kind of tell, this is like, 2000s or, mid 2000s, late 2000s and stuff like that. Normally when you hear like a 90s hip hop beat, you're like, oh, that's from the 90s and stuff. I feel like this kind of is just like, as you said, it's more timeless and stuff like that. It kind of fits everywhere.
I'll be honest though. Like when you mentioned like, is that Kanye's doing or is that Common's doing? Like that is, to me, it's 100% Kanye. Like Kanye has that musical genius of understanding what what the specific time period wants in music. And his musical knowledge, I think, is just so incredibly deep. Like hate or love Kanye as a person on his own, but like when it comes to being a producer, I think he's got to be on that Mount Rushmore of best hip hop producers of all time. Like,
agreed.
I think what he ended up doing with that record was he knew that Common was, a figure in hip hop that was already a mainstay, but didn't really have that commercial success that some of the other hip hop artists at that time had. And he came in and he just polished it right up and put a spin on it. And to me, it's like, it's almost Kanye's album just as much as Common's album.
Interesting.
I feel like at the end of this podcast series, we're going to have a bunch of different Mount Rushmores that Dan has filled.
They're just going to be everywhere.
I love the Mount Rushmore.
You love that reference.
I love that reference too.
Yeah, what's your Mount Rushmore of basketball? What's your Mount Rushmore of
We'll add it to the wheel.
Just going to have this valley of Mount Rushmores.
Yeah. We'll have them for different genres.
Matt, I was just going to say, your the way that you described the record really hit for me, because I think I've said before, like I'm not a huge, I enjoy hip hop and rap, but I'm not a huge into the genre. I don't have a lot of records in that genre, and I don't know the scene as well as you guys do. But as soon as I put that on, it was just relatable. I just was like, yeah, I can listen to this from start to finish. It's a really enjoyable experience. Yeah.
Well, even take the intro track where it's got that slow build, and then right away the drums kick in, everything just kind of hits all at once, and you're like, oh, like again, it's just got that nice mellow vibe. You're just right away you're pulled in.
And we should say, for the listeners, the reason that we've got some familiarity, we might have some familiarity with some of these selections, is the whole inspiration behind this podcast is the Vinyl Month Madness Challenge that we actually all just did as a group, where we had a topic every day for the 30 days of April, where we...
Shout out to Dynalone Records.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you. I couldn't remember the name of the store, but that's the reason that we know some of these selections and why we listened to them before, and we're not totally caught by surprise. But and it's also the reason for the pod. That's the reason that we're doing this now, is because we had so much fun doing that vinyl challenge. So now we want to take it to the next level. Matt, you got anything else?
That's all for this one for today.
Awesome. Next up, Mr. Losier, what have you got for us?
Hey guys, this is definitely a quirky pick. This is not something that most people will know. Maybe some of our French Canadian listeners may know about this, but I'm going to go with an obvious record for me, maybe not so much for you guys, but it's Denis Losier's Dans un coin d'escalier. So Denis Losier happens to be my brother's name. There is no relation to me, but, at the end of the day, if there's a Losier in Canada, there is some sort of relation to me, because the last name originated in Canada. So this is just like an old folk singer from Montreal, and he put out this record. And in my days of my heavy record collecting, back when I was living in Oshawa, of all places, I was digging through a tray at probably, like, I forget where it was, maybe Value Village, maybe Goodwill, but I saw this record in the pile, and I just couldn't believe that I had crossed paths with this, because it's not very common to find anyone named Losier in anywhere other than French-speaking Canada, and so I had to grab it. Turns out this is actually a phenomenal record.
I gotta listen to that one still.
Even if you don't speak French, like it's relatable. Like you can, it's just solid folk music, and I think he really nails it. For those who don't speak French, dans un coin d'escalier means in the corner of a staircase. A lot of the say motifs of this album is about like heartbreak and being in a corner, sort of trying to find yourself, which I think a lot of singer-songwriter albums are about, right? It's just everyone who starts to pick up a guitar and decides to write music usually starts with that kind of content. But I just thought this would be a cool cheeky pick. Trying to promote some lesser known music from French Canada.
You got to, for our many thousands of listeners, hundreds of thousands of listeners, perhaps even millions, you've got to describe that cover because it's one of a kind.
I got some input on this after.
He's a very handsome blonde man with bluish green eyes, which I am also a blonde man with bluish green eyes. So there is definitely some sort of like relation. I don't know how distant of a cousin he is, but he's definitely a distant cousin.
I noticed you admitted handsome in that description of yourself.
Obviously.
Honest, I'm not going to lie. Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say honestly, when I saw that album cover, I was like, in my mind, up until we did our first Zoom, I was like, that's what Dan looks like. In my mind, that's exactly how I pictured you, dude. I'm not even kidding.
That's amazing.
And he's always wearing a scarf.
With the flow.
Always wearing the scarf with the long hair, man.
He's wearing a plaid shirt, so it's like I'm usually wearing a plaid shirt. He's wearing like a really interesting, like wool knit sweater with a plaid scarf and a plaid shirt. So plaid on plaid. That's also a big.
That's a big Losier.
That's big time Losier style over here.
Yeah. Nice.
And then the back of the album cover is a scribble art of.
That's cool.
Of Denis.
Is that a self-portrait?
Maybe it is. I don't know. Another cool feature of this is a signed record. Right, damn, so it's signed. Wow. It's signed by Denis, which is pretty awesome.
Very cool.
So yeah, that's my pick, guys. This song's on the album for me. Sorry?
The actual artist, or is it your brother? You got your brother to sign it.
No, this is from the actual artist.
Just making sure for our fans out there.
Thank you for the clarification.
I got my brother to sign it.
So when we were going through Matt's, we didn't explain. We want to do a playlist from each episode so people can have a listen to some of the tracks from these. So we're picking what we think was probably the most popular from the album, and then your favorite. So Dan, what are your picks?
So the most popular is definitely the title of the album, Dans un coin d'escalier. It's probably his most upbeat track of the whole album. And I think it's the first track on side A, so I think it's definitely the hit. I'm not sure exactly how popular this was on the radio in Quebec. Like this album was 1978. So this is old. Like this isn't recent. This is an old ass record. So I'm actually be interested to finding out how popular this record was on Quebec radio. But my other favorite song is the first song on side B. I think probably when they produced this, they knew what the best songs were. I mean, it's not the strongest album front to back. It's definitely palatable where you can listen to the whole thing. But La Reine du Nord, the Queen of the North, would be my second favorite track. That's probably like my non-popular personal favorite.
Nice. Have you looked into whether he's still active in the music scene?
Honestly, I haven't. Like, I really should try to figure out who this guy really is. Because this is always like. At one point, I had a record collection that was just so many records that I never listened to, and I had to purge how many records I had. Like at one point, I had close to like 800 records in my collection, and I had to let them go because they were sitting in milk crates. And we're talking about like stuff that is just like, I'm not a Boston fan, but I like some of their songs, so I'll keep their greatest hits album, right? And then when I was going through, I was going to get rid of this, and I just sort of like, I can't get rid of this. Like,
no, you got it. That's a keeper.
You made the right decision.
That's a signed Denis Losier.
It's a signed Denis Losier record. You never know when this is going to get valuable one day, right? But I should definitely check it out. Maybe in another episode. For the listeners, I'll do my research and I'll just give you a little deep dive on this guy. Maybe
nice.
Maybe if some of our fans want to start a forum on our podcast, they can chime in and let us know.
Who knows? Maybe we will have an episode in the future that's us all sharing our favorite Denis Losier albums.
Yeah,
that would be good.
Let's go.
So here's a quick
I kind of like the mystery.
Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I said I like the mystery. The mystery
Yeah,
behind
me
it.
too.
Yeah.
Like he's kind of this. We sort of know him, and I'm just imagining he's you, Dan, which is kind of fun,
Yeah.
right?
It's you in
Like
a
I-
wig.
Yeah, and for our listeners, Dan also is like plays guitar, sings some folk songs, and does a bunch of fun stuff. So this is just your alter ego.
I can picture Dan in the
100%.
corner of the stairs.
Maybe this guy died in 1987 and I reincarnated into me. Like,
There you go.
who fucking knows?
Yeah.
I actually want to see a photo of you in a blonde wig now.
Well, it's not, I don't know if that's going to happen. Like, I'm as far away from having long blonde hair as you can get. For the listeners, I'm about 75% bald. So,
It looks
Get a
good on
wig,
you,
man. You wear it well, sir.
Or maybe it's a Halloween costume for this coming year. Who knows?
Oh,
yo, that's a great idea. I mean, I've got
I was gonna
some
say, I
already.
think you got to do it.
That is niche.
Who are you
Here's
dressed
what-
as? Oh, I'm dressed as Denis Losier. You never heard of it?
Yeah, there you go.
Just carry the record around with you. That's a great point that Chris made, though. I do love that there's some albums out there that aren't available on Spotify or YouTube, and that there's very little information existing on the internet. So there's this element of mystery, like who was it? And I don't know if Denis Losier is in this ballpark, but like you find this record and you love it. But I've got records in my collection that I don't have any information on the band. I can't find it, but it's a great album.
Yeah. I love when that happens. I know I've got a couple CDs. I think I even have a couple records where I've tried to find them on all the streaming services. Nothing, but it almost makes me more excited because then I actually dig out the physical copy and throw it in there and listen to it. So that's always very exciting for me. It's always a callback to like back in the day and stuff like that.
yeah, it makes it more like personal.
A motorbike in the background.
Well, you know what? I mean, his album is on Discogs.
Okay.
Oh, sweet.
It was distributed by him.
Oh, that's fun and independent.
So
I like that.
Good for him.
a lot of the names on this album, like Fleury, Robitaille, Ra, Auger, Allard, like these are all very like French Canadian last names, like names that originated in Canada. So this is like a pretty. I mean, I'd be interested to hear from like a French Canadian disc jockey if they knew anything about this guy, because I mean that would be the person to find out if they actually had any radio play out there, because it would be hard to imagine any radio play anywhere else in Canada, just because it's the whole thing is in French. Mm-hmm. There's not a single English word in this whole thing.
It's a great pick, Dan. As far as introduce yourself goes, like, it's super niche, and I love it.
Yeah, definitely sums you up pretty good. Doesn't like to speak English.
All right, Tom, let's see what you got for us, bud.
Okay, guys. So introduce yourself with a record. It was obvious I had to go with something Australian. When we did the vinyl challenge, it was AC/DC. I thought I'd go with something a little bit different here, a little bit more broad. So this is Albert Productions' The Good Times, 25 years of Australian hits. When I first started collecting, one of my first focuses was Aussie pub rock. Such a massive part of the Australian music scene throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s, really, from bands like the Easy Beats and Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs that really kicked off the rock and roll scene in Australia. You know, the Beatles had a massive influence, and we had our own. The Easy Beats were kind of like our own version of the Beatles. And then that developed into this real kind of hard edge sound that is Aussie pub rock, and it's one of my favorite styles of rock and roll, you know, popularized by AC/DC the world over. But these guys, Albert Productions, it's an Australian label that was founded in the 60s to support Australian rock and roll. And to the listeners, the cover is just like a who's who of Australian artists, and like AC/DC front and center. But you know, one of the things I love about the Australian music scene is for every AC/DC, Tame Impala, Flume, King Giz and the Lizard Wizard, Savage Garden, Silverchair, there's just, you know, acres of more local bands that aren't known outside of Australia, but that have, big followings. They play festivals, they play gigs. We've got a really vibrant music scene in Australia, and I think we punch above our weight on the world stage in terms of the music scene. AC/DC being a fantastic example of that. But
even like a Tame Impala today, right?
Yeah, huge.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
Huge, exactly. So this is a double LP of 25 years of Australian hits. So Albert Productions just released amazing Australian music for decades. They're still going. And, there's so many names on this that are synonymous with Australian music. I mentioned Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs, one of the very early Australian rock and roll bands. The Easy Beats, AC/DC, Stevie Wright, who was from the Easy Beats, John Paul Young, the Angels, Rose Tattoo, Choir Boys. Like people who know Australian music know these names. And the other thing that's really awesome about Albert Productions is these two guys, Harry Vander and George Young, who were in the Easy Beats, and then they came back to Australia and they became producers for this label. And George Young is the older brother of Malcolm and Angus Young from AC/DC. So, and they produced, that early run of amazing albums from AC/DC. So, this is Australian music. This is an awesome collection of Australian tracks. I had this on the other day, and it's an absolute belter. In terms
I love
of
the front cover.
Yeah, isn't it awesome? Like,
it really is. It kind of reminds me of Sgt. Pepper's.
And then the back cover has got like the Albert's studio.
Oh, nice SSL console there. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's
Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
You go, Dan.
Was George Young was in the Easy Beats?
Yes.
So he, being the older brother of the other young brothers of AC/DC fame, was kind of at the forefront of this Aussie rock explosion.
Amazing.
Which is really interesting to know. Like as a Canadian and even as like a rock and roll fan, the fact that I don't know that is kind of blows my mind, right? That obviously I know Malcolm and I know Angus just because of how worldwide their music became, but I had no idea.
Yeah, he was massively important for Australian music because of the Easy Beats, who really were like the Beatles of Australia, and they were. Yeah, and they had success in the UK as well. And then they came back. So Harry Vander and George Young came back, joined Albert's, and they just became this powerhouse producing and writing team. And they did their own stuff along with shaping this golden period of Australian pub rock, and really, George's hand guiding his two younger brothers through the start of their career. And I think Albert Productions did their first 5 albums, which are like huge, amazing albums. Like those first 5 with Bon. I think it's 5 or 6. I'd have to double check. But yeah, no, that huge influence on Australian music scene.
That's amazing.
So Tom, why pub rock in Australia? What what made that the go-to Australian music scene or music style? What appeals? So as Canadians,
picking Barney's.
Yeah, we don't know what.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think so. The Australian live music scene started with music halls, which were like these places where you could go and watch a band and have a beer. And then maybe the licensing laws. I'm not entirely sure, but that's where bands cut their teeth, playing in front of rowdy, pissed punters in a crammed into a tiny little space in a pub somewhere in a country town or a big city. That's where bands like AC/DC cut their teeth. And I think that energy, that high energy, high octane, nosebleed loud sound was in some way shaped by those venues and those audiences and that vibe.
Yeah, and you know what? It's when you think about any sort of music scene, right? Whether like if we can start like talking about can rock, like all of those big Canadian rock artists started in those pub scenes. And if you've seen any of those big names, like say the Tragically Hips or the Sam Roberts or, you know, Great Big Sea, and you were able to see a show in one of those pub venues, that's likely probably the best show you've ever seen by them. Right? Because the atmosphere in those shows are so intimate. There aren't large crowds, but they're usually so packed, and it kind of dictates, you know, where the scene goes, right? And you have, like you said, like you have all these smaller acts that are only playing those pubs and those smaller venues, but that kind of like dictates where the bigger artists are going, right? And who they're being influenced by. Yeah,
there was a venue in Sydney, I think it was the Bondi Lifesaver Club, which was where a lot of these bands played, and you know, some of their kind of more famous sets from that era would have been played at. And you know, can you just imagine seeing AC/DC in a venue like that in the 70s? Like,
I mean,
It'd be mind-blowing.
It'd be unbelievable.
I mean, you know, like, and when they were cutting their teeth, and just that, what was that quote I said the other day about Angus Young being like punk rock Chuck Berry with nosebleed volume? Like, imagine that.
What a great description.
I know, right? Imagine that in a tiny little dank pub. You know, you're pressed up against the stage. Angus and Bon are just dripping with sweat.
Marshall
and just
stacks.
Yeah, just balls to the wall. Like, that's Australian pub rock.
I think it's like, I don't think it gets enough credit. Like, again, we know AC/DC, but like the whole genre, like the more you talk, and I know a little bit of Australian music, but more modern. I didn't dabble into the past. I was more into the Australian like punk. But like the more you're talking, the more like they set up rock and roll, like what I would call like radio, like Canadian radio rock and roll. For like the entire, I would say, North America. It's kind of mind blowing that we didn't know where these like the roots kind of came from.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, like I think a lot of people don't even realize AC/DC are Australian because they're international.
No, but you know what else? So it's like, I think a lot of people understand that there were 5 albums before Back in Black, you know?
Yeah, that's true too.
Like that, I actually, when you said that, Tom, whether it's 5 or 6, I'm not sure, but like I actually had no idea, right? Like, and I think that's the shame of being in a small market.
Yeah,
Canada and Australia always get overshadowed by the US and the UK when it comes to music.
Yeah, 100%.
And the commercial power that those countries have to be able to distribute music worldwide, and the influence they have worldwide, just kind of dictates where music scenes go. And it's often only those big acts. I've talked to Americans who have no idea who Tragically Hip is.
Which is mind-blowing.
Those are our godfathers of can rock.
No kidding.
And in the US, it's like, yeah, there's going to be some people who only know them as pub rockers, right? Like, I have a friend who saw them in Boston in a venue that could only hold 120 people.
Wow.
And it wasn't full.
They will sell out every stadium in Canada 3 nights in a row.
Yeah.
How popular they are over here, right?
But you can't go past Boston, right?
Yeah.
Which makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
That's insane to think about.
But I think, and this is where I started listening to Australian like rock music in like the early 2000s, because there's like these correlations between can rock and Aussie rock. They sing about very similar things. They sing about like nature and the way they love their like country, and how they're kind of like, they sing about the ocean, where maybe can rock sings more about like the long drive to Alberta, depending on who you're talking to, right? But like, there's always those connections to like little small towns in between these big cities, or like the people you meet and how one city like brings joy or excitement when you get into like the pub and meet your friends or something. There's those correlations between songs. Like I've been big into like this band, the Dune Rats, this year, and like half the songs you could just be like, oh, that could be written about like downtown Toronto bar, or a Hamilton dive bar, or a Brantford dive bar, right? Like there's those correlations that similar culture, but just a
So,
little bit
so
different.
many similarities between Australia and Canada too.
Yeah, for sure.
Big time.
And Dan, I just had a look. It's 6 albums. High Voltage, TNT, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, Let There Be Rock, Power Age, and Highway to Hell. That all came before Back in Black.
Unbelievable. And those
Unreal.
are all actually powerhouse albums. Right?
Yeah, all those are great albums.
They're all amazing.
Yeah, they're all incredible.
Did those get popular acts like post Back in Black? People went back and listened to them?
They were
I'm
all
assuming
big in Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Highway to Hell was the first album to crack the US market.
Because that went platinum how many times? That's gone platinum, like, I think at least 3 times, if not more.
Yep. 5 times platinum in Australia.
There you go.
2 times platinum in Canada, platinum in France, platinum in Switzerland, platinum in the UK, 7 times platinum in the US.
Okay, so yeah, a little higher than I thought it was in the US, because I thought it was around 3 or 4, but yeah, I was way off there.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
And how many times did it go platinum? How many times did Back in Black go platinum? And
I'm
12
guessing it's
times in
Diamond.
Australia, Diamond in Canada, 2 times platinum in France, 2 times platinum in Switzerland, 2 times platinum in the UK, 2 times Diamond in the US, and 25 times platinum in the US.
And for the
Wow.
listeners, Diamond in Canada is 1 million.
Yeah,
And Diamond in the US is 10 million.
which is
Wow.
insane.
Yeah.
Diamond in Canada is hard. I think people need.
It really is actually.
Diamond
Yeah.
is really hard to accomplish in Canada for sure.
I don't know many.
I don't think like us as Canadians, like we buy music, but it's nowhere near to the level the States or anywhere else globally buys music. You know, if an artist here goes like a couple times platinum, it's a big deal.
Big time deal.
Yeah.
So I feel like we could talk about AC/DC forever, but
I'm sure
it's
we'll
not
have
an
an episode
AC/DC
about
podcast. So
And this is also not an AC/DC pick. It's
yeah, it's all Australian music. So I'm actually not going to pick an AC/DC track from for either of my picks from this because there'll be other times, and you can just listen to AC/DC anytime. I'm going to go something a bit deeper. So I'm going to go Easy Beats, Friday on My Mind.
Yeah. Oh,
good song.
love that song. That's
What a
an
tune.
absolute classic.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful song. And the other one I'm going to go, I shared this with you guys some time ago, but I'm going to go Stevie Wright, who's also from the Easy Beats, and Evie, which was a huge hit from him. Part 1. It's a 3-part song, but I'm going to go Stevie Wright, Evie, Part 1 as the other track.
Very cool.
cool.
All right.
I never knew that Savage Garden was from Australia. I thought they were
Same.
from the UK.
Yeah.
I honestly thought they were from the UK.
Blew my fucking mind.
There you go.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. As long as Savage Garden's been around, it's like those guys from the UK. Had no idea they're from
100%.
Australia. So that was a fun fact.
Yeah, that was great.
When he said
There you
that,
go.
I looked at the camera like,
Yeah.
really?
I had no idea.
Now you're making me second guess myself.
Imagine they're not.
No, they're Aussies.
Oh, good.
They're from. They formed it. I just looked. They formed in Logan, which is like just down the highway from me here in Brisbane.
Amazing.
Oh, man.
Those guys
Go
are
see if you can
amazing.
find them. Do you think they still live there?
Probably not. I think they probably live in a swish penthouse somewhere in the world.
How?
Yeah, those guys got boatloads of money.
Yeah. They were
Well,
big when
like-
albums and singles were big.
That's true. Yeah. Those
They had quite
Columbia
a few
have
number
record
one
sales
hits.
through the roof.
Yeah.
Now I've got Savage Garden stuck in my head.
Never a bad thing. Truly
No,
Mad
never a
Lady
bad thing.
Yeah. Go
Okay.
to karaoke song right there.
Okay, moving on. Let's have a look. Chris Bun Palumbo, what have you got for us?
All right. You guys all know, to the listeners, I'm a massive Sam Roberts fan. I've seen him probably going on 40 plus times.
Holy Chris.
Yes, easily. Since I was like early high school, maybe even elementary. I can't remember. I saw him at a festival in North Bay.
Nice.
And I just remember standing there, and it was my first, I was with my parents, and it was my first time seeing a like rock and roll show. And I was so excited because Treble Charger was actually the headliner.
Nice.
And I was like
Wow.
totally into pop punk at the time. And then like this shaggy haired French Canadian guy with a beard comes on and just killed it. And I remember being like, I'm in love. Like, who is this guy? And it was like I think they just changed their name from like the North Stars. They were just starting to kind of break into the Canadian market. There was probably like 20 people standing in front. I just remember being like enthralled. So for that,
Chris, if I could, before you present the record for the listeners, I was Chris and I were college roommates for a couple of years, and if someone was to ask me what Chris's favorite band is, 100% without any doubt, I would say Sam Roberts Band.
yeah, I'm sure I drove you people absolutely.
A little bit. I mean, I think you overplayed a couple of the records, but to be fair, I'm also a fan. So, and to me, I think a lot of his records can be overplayed because they're all really good. But
There was only 2 at the time, so 2 available anyway at the time. So give me a little credit. So my pick here is Sam Roberts' Chemical City. I'll just like describe the album art for you. It's this beautiful record with like this kind of methodical city that's like glowing eerily blue and kind of gross, spewing chemical like flames. And then on the back, you've got like this old rickety sailboat with lightning and stormy weather, kind of like in this Wizard of Oz type feel.
I was just going to say,
That's
the
a
front
good
cover reminds
description.
me of the Wizard of Oz.
yeah, Emerald
Yeah.
City,
Emerald City, very like,
Sapphire City,
yeah, very
Chemical
like
City.
chemical.
Chris,
Yeah.
I couldn't quite make out the boat on the back though, because it looks like maybe some of the sleeve is missing.
Just a tad.
Yeah. Just
A tad.
So I actually got really lucky. So this album, I do believe, came out in like 2006, and I happened to pick it up for pretty cheap. I think it was like a couple bucks,
Nice.
which sums up my collection. I am and I'm going to use the word frugal. Some people may call it cheap. I'm a very cheap record collector. I don't I'll spend money when I have to, but if I can get a deal, I'm going for it. So I was super stoked to get this record for a couple bucks. And I was so excited. And yeah, we had a roommate in university that our good friend Glenn. So it was me, Dan Losier, Glenn, a guy named Philip Bilal, or I guess Phil, who lived in the basement. And then Glenn brought home someone called Bun Bun. So we had a pet rabbit, and Bun Bun, I guess, got a hold of this gorgeous $2 record and totally shredded it. So it's missing the whole spine. It's held together. I did an amazing job. If maybe when we get the website up and running, I'll post a picture of it. I did this amazing sewing job with some kite string, so it's held together.
Awesome.
The record sticks out just a little bit. You got the tip sticking out here.
Just the tip.
Just
You're
the
killing
tips,
me.
yeah.
You are killing me.
It is honestly the best thing.
Because of that, and you guys hate it, but because of that, the 2 LPs have to be in the same sleeve. And Tom's shaking his head. Yeah,
that's painful.
Oh boy.
listen, they're not touching.
I
They're
am
not touching,
uncomfortable.
but they're close because they're in the original packaging, which is like
We're sweating right now watching you handle this record.
Oh, there's no saving it. It's yeah.
And
Honestly, Chris, if you need extra sleeves, I got some sleeves. I got you on that.
Okay, I put an order in for some sleeves. Don't worry, because you guys
I
yelled at me
really
enough.
liked that sleeve.
Yeah. Oh,
Is that like, do rabbits love eating cardboard? I mean,
oh,
because there's like it's got to be at least 10% of the sleeve is gone.
oh, easily.
Yeah.
And this is, and I'm gonna go with this happened. Like, I put the record on, I left the room, probably to go to the bathroom or something, and then came back, and I was probably only gone a couple minutes, and I came back and it was just demoed. And I remember just standing there and in my head being like, hey, it was only $2. He didn't lucky, like no chew marks on the actual vinyl. Bun Bun was a good rabbit for that.
One saving grace.
Yeah, one saving, probably because the record was on, or carelessly tossed onto the bed or something like that. But yeah, so I did save it. It's still in my collection. It gets very heavy play. The albums themselves I actually clean and take care of the albums.
Nice.
They need sleeves. I apologize for that. But this sums up my collection perfectly, because in my youth and how I collect or inherited a lot of my records, they look very well. This is definitely my worst one, and also sadly would have been my most expensive and rare one.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, because new records today, especially if they're first pressings,
Yeah.
there is a very limited run of these that get released.
Yeah. It was released in 06.
Do you know how much this record is worth today?
I remember I looked it up a couple of weeks ago and I blocked it out. Tom's got his hand up. And
I was going to say, Tom's got this one.
Tom's got Discogs ready.
I got Discogs ready. I'm looking at it and just shaking
I'm guessing
my
at
head.
least 125.
So the average, which is, you got to look at condition, but average is $172. The most it's ever sold. The most it's ever sold for $279.
No.
There is only one for sale on Discogs right now. $380.
Oh
Bun
my
Bun.
God. I have a feeling.
Chris, I think when Chris was like, I'm very frugal with my record collection. I think Chris's new nickname is Chris Careless.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason you guys all picked it, because Tom picked his because of like Australian music. Matt picked his because of his love of hip hop and like passion for that genre. Losier has this beautiful connection to, a French Canadian, and I got
Distant
mine.
relative.
Yeah, because a Bunny ate a really expensive record. So I think that sums it up.
So if there's this saving grace here, you don't have to pay $380 to get it back because the repressing that they're doing.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is good. Like, I feel bad for the guy that thinks he's going to get $380 for that, because people can wait like literally 3 months and it's going to be available again for $50.
Yeah, he's not getting $380 for that.
No, there's no way.
No, not at all. But it's exciting stuff.
What do you got for the playlist, Chris?
So I have to go. The hit off this, I do remember, was Bridge to Nowhere, which I'm going to do a shout out to my friend Tiru. We heard it live for the first time. They wrote it on the way to the concert we saw in Guelph, and he played the song. And my buddy Tiru looked at me and went, "That song's a bridge to nowhere." So whenever I hear that song, I think of Tiru's stupid smile saying that to me, and I can't get it out of my head.
Nice.
Awesome.
And then I'm going to go with An Uprising Down Under, because that song is featuring Matt Mays. And
Oh, wow, nice.
Beautiful.
yeah, it's they actually flew Matt Mays out. This whole album, too, good connection here, was recorded in Australia. So they flew Matt Mays out. So heavy influence.
Whereabouts?
Do you know what? I don't know. I read it before, and I can't remember. But heavy influence. I'm sure you can hear some of like the Aussie pub rock coming through. They did some more kind of riffy stuff in this one. But An Uprising Down Under is a more chill, relaxing song. It was my wedding song. So when I didn't put it in the first round, Lee gave me a little bit of a hard time. So I'm throwing it in this time just for her.
Yeah, for sure, Chris. Yeah, I can't believe you didn't pick it for your first time. And I want to make a comment. Like, it's very easy to sort of like make a joke about how Chris is careless with his record collection. But the one thing I do appreciate about your record collection, Chris, and I think we can all sort of vibe on the same wavelength there, is that our records are meant to be played.
Yeah.
Obviously, we all have some albums in our collection that are worth hundreds of dollars, but no matter what, they're still getting a lot of heavy rotation.
Oh, yeah.
And Chris, like the fact that it's a Sam Roberts album that's chewed up like that, it makes sense to me, because it should be your most used album, knowing that he's one of your favorite artists.
Oh yeah,
Bun Bun just had good taste.
he did.
Yeah, he really did.
Yeah, this is, and I'm throwing out teasers. This isn't the only one.
It's not. And as far as I know, and we'll find out in later episodes, I think it's mostly Can Rock that he likes to
Oh, Bun Bun. rest his soul. Bun Bun loved his Can Rock.
Nice.
Just like Chris, so that's a perfect pick for
Yeah.
you, Chris, for introduce yourself with the record.
I'm almost certain there are no Sam Roberts Chemical City records copies for sale that have been stitched back together either. So that's a one of a kind.
One of a kind.
100%.
I really want him. If he's listening, I really want him to sign this. I would love to see his expression on his face.
He's almost certainly
honestly,
listening.
if we can search him out and get him to sign this record, that'd be incredible.
Yeah, shout
I
out
feel
to
like
Sam Roberts.
Yeah.
He's listening.
Or Dave Nugent there to get him to sign this. Yeah, that'd be.
How, like, I gotta ask, like, I know, I think Chris, you might have even seen this happen a couple times. I remember one time specifically at one of the parties that I had all my records there, and someone was just being careless and spilled a ton of beer over like literally 20 of the covers. And
God.
Thank God they were all singles. So I was like, okay, at least, some of these are blank covers. I can just switch them on. Not a big deal. But it is the most devastating thing when that happens. So I can only imagine how you felt when you saw that.
Yeah, I'm sure we could do a whole episode on just like records either like that got scratched or ruined because someone carelessly put them away, or albums missing, not in the right places, and you're just like, I just want to know where that Beatles record is.
Yeah.
Like Dan said, though, they're there to be played, and you got to think when this was the medium of choice in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Like this is how you would play music at a party. So they're gonna get, they're gonna get messed up.
Yeah.
I love the idea, and I guess it's just the nostalgia of me. Like we're spoiled. Like we carry around a phone with Spotify. Even if you don't even have Spotify like premium, you listen to 2 or 3 ads every like 20 minutes. But I remember my dad telling me, if you wanted to go to a friend's house, you put like your 6 albums under your arm.
Yeah.
And you threw them in your car and you went over.
And you listened to them front to back.
Yeah.
You had playlists back then, right? Not until cassettes came into the mix.
Yeah.
So the next level for this, if our listeners probably don't appreciate, 3 of the team are in Canada. I'm in Australia. At some point when, travel has resumed, we're going to have to do one of these episodes where we do it in a room together
100%.
and we bring those records and we listen to
for
them.
sure.
I think we each have to bring at least 3, maybe 4 records with us. Obviously time pending, we just listen to them all.
Maybe Matt will have his record room basement renovated by then.
I'm hoping it's in the works right now.
with his like National Library quality archive of hip hop.
It's all good.
Chris, you got anything else?
No. Dan can attest to this. I guess the only other thing would be Chemical Cities in this like orange color. And I took this record to the paint store and was like, match this color. And then I painted my university room bright orange.
Wow.
Nice.
I
That's
thought
amazing.
you went with the A&W logo.
Yeah, that's
Shout
what
out to
everyone thought.
A&W.
Yeah, I went
Hit
with
us up.
orange and brown. Oh, man.
That's awesome,
Nice.
Chris.
That's
I had no
amazing.
idea.
Fun fact.
That's a nice little connection.
Yeah.
Good stuff there.
We've now come to one of the most exciting moments of the pod. We're going to go through what we like to call the hot take, where we tackle an interesting or controversial topic, possibly. At random, Chris, the mad scientist / engineer, has designed us up a spinning wheel of hot takes. Chris, can you talk us through what you've got there?
Okay, I can't take full credit because I made it out of cardboard and an old record, which is called Dave and Pat's or something, pub songs. So it's like these British pub songs. Bev was real upset. Bev's my mom. I did drill holes in it.
It looks incredible. For those who can't see it, it's literally it's a vinyl record with the hot takes essentially pressed on the dead wax in the center of the record. And with numbers on the outside for selection for wherever this thing lands, it's pretty
Like a wheel of
pretty
fortune.
It's very impressive.
Yeah, and I got this nice little button. I rigged her up with a motor, thanks to John Palumbo's helpful engineering. So we're gonna give her a spin and see what our topic is.
So talk us through the 5 topics that are on the wheel.
Yeah, what do we got here?
Good point. Yeah. All right. So topic number 1 is your best/worst Led Zeppelin album. Number 2 is the best song of all time. That's a pretty heavy.
Oh,
No biggie.
Episode 1. Let's go.
Yeah. 3, U2, yes or no. I'm sure we're going to get some fired up over that one. 4, Bon Scott or Brian Johnson. That one's for Tom right there. And then 5, a popular band you can't get into. So
Nice.
here we go. Hopefully we get some audio. We can hear this.
Spin the wheel
spinning.
of destiny.
Oh, come on.
Bow, bow.
Zzz.
We might have to do some
real
sound effects in
disappointing.
I was gonna say I'll
post.
throw in some sound effects for this one.
Give me a sec. All right. We're going to... I'm not willing to give up on this yet.
We're having some technical difficulties.
Classic John Palumbo creation. Way to go.
Shout out to John and Bev Palumbo.
Absolutely, gems.
Oh,
There we go.
Not enough power.
I think I drained the battery.
Chris, give it a hearty spin for us, bud.
Wait, I want one more attempt.
We need the Jeopardy music.
Yeah, Losier is going to write a sweet riff here. No, she's done. All right.
All right,
We're
just give it a
imagining.
spin.
So next time I'll have to plug her in rather than use 9 volts. Here we go.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, there we
That's
go.
perfect.
Oh,
There we
okay. Here we go. Number 1, best/worst Zeppelin albums.
Nice.
Okay.
I think that's a good one to start with.
I reckon there'll be some pretty common themes here.
Yeah, me too.
So let's do a whip around in the order that we started with. So, Matt, what is your favorite Zeppelin album and what is your least favorite Led Zeppelin album?
This one, honestly, this is hard. I think favorite is going to be 4. That is probably my all-time favorite. That thing just slaps from beginning to end. It's got all but one of my favorite Zeppelin songs. Well, sorry, that's actually not true. It's got the majority of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs on it. One of my favorites, though, one of my favorite Zeppelin songs is "Fool in the Rain." That's not on there, unfortunately. I think the worst one, I'm gonna have to say "In Through the Outdoor," and it's hard to say what's the worst one because they're all good. Like I enjoy them all.
Yeah.
But that's my take.
Interesting, though, that one of your favorite songs is on your least favorite album. That just shows how strong it is.
And then it's a hard choice. I'll be honest, it's a toss up between that and Coda for me.
Oh, wow. I actually really love Coda.
Same. That's interesting because Coda's actually, I would rank it above 3 other records by them.
Oh, fair enough. And maybe, you know what? Maybe for me, it's just the one I've maybe listened to the least.
Yeah. There's no wrong answers here.
I went back and listened through Physical Graffiti again the other day and just, God damn, I forgot how many amazing songs are off that album. Like,
It's so good.
Unbelievable. It's just like great song after great song after great song. I don't care if the song is 4 minutes long. I don't care if it's 9 minutes long. They're all amazing.
Very nice.
But,
Mr. Losier.
Okay, so for me, this is for me to pick the best album by them. It's a very easy pick for me. It's Zeppelin 3. For me, it's like when you listen to 1 and 2, you're getting really heavy duty blues rock. Mm-hmm. And then 3, they really went on a different path with that one. And they're kind of stretching a lot of different genres, but I think they're focusing a lot more on the blues aspect. Like hats off to Roy Harper, Bronner Stomp. Those are very like blues focused, folk focused songs.
Yep.
Friends though, it's I don't know how you can describe that song, especially for the era that it was released in. It's just like very intense folk rock that I don't think you ever heard at the time. But for me, the song that really, and it's one of my favorite songs of all time, is Since I've Been Loving You. I remember hearing that song for the first time, and this was like a deep cut after I had already been, like, I'd already solidified Zeppelin being one of my favorite bands when I was a teenager. And I don't think I never went to Zeppelin 3. I was just really focusing on 1, 2, 4 and Physical Graffiti. And it was my older brother who was like, you really got to listen to 3. Like, and it was Since I've Been Loving You. That was the first song you listened to. And then all those other songs I mentioned came after that.
And then you've still got that just punch you in the guts immigrant song that kicks it all off.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. Like it's from front to back, I think it's their most it's the one that goes from the most different genres, maybe other than, say, Physical Graffiti, because that one is like, it's very experimental. But
that's all over the place.
Since I've Been Loving You, I got to talk about it a little bit more. I mean, Madison Square Garden, 1973. There's a clip of that song being played on Song Remains the Same on the record, and also on the DVD that they are on the film that they released. But there's also a deep cut of a Zeppelin sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, like greatest hits. I don't know what the DVD's called, but I remember getting when I was a kid.
Is it How the West Was Won?
I don't know. I don't think it was How the West Was Won, but this is like an alternative take of that Madison Square Garden recording. And it's different to what you hear in Song Remains the Same, but that is the all-time best. Jimmy Page really hits it out of the ballpark. Nice. And there's moments in that song where his guitar play is so subtle and also so heavy. And there are moments in my life where I would play that song. Like there's a day in my life where I listened to that song probably 20 times in a row. Amazing. That's how great it was. And it was like
awesome.
I was like trying to sell my soul to the devil, to be like, hey, if the devil's listening to me, grant me the power to play guitar like that, because that is peak guitar play for me right there.
The way you just described Jimmy Page's playing too is like the perfect description of him, that light and shade.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the song builds up, right? Like it's a very actually simply written song, but it's very long. It's 8-minute song. When Plant's vocals hits that crescendo at the end, and then it really dies down, and then it's the iconic riff of that song, and then Bonham comes in with the drums again, like it's a hair raiser. Well, I mean, I could keep talking about that song. Like I'm just so in love with that song. I can listen to it anytime, any place. I'll never get sick of it. For me, the record I hate the most by them, and I really don't like this record. Like Zeppelin is one of my favorite bands. Coda actually is a hot take in itself. I think it's probably their most contentious. Like I think you either love it or you hate it, or I should say hate that you dislike it. But for me, it's Presence. Presence. I feel like when they went with Physical Graffiti, they really experimented with it. They went too far off the deep end in their experimentation. Maybe it was the drugs. Maybe it was the partying.
In Presence,
I don't think there are any really strong songs on Presence.
Achilles' Last Stand.
I don't think that's that strong of a song.
Second best Jimmy Page guitar solo.
Yeah, but it's okay, fine, but it's just solo. Like, give me, like, I have a hard time listening to that song front to back.
Wow. Sure,
the guitar solo is great, but it's such a slow build up to get anywhere. I find the song to be really boring. I find the whole album to be very boring. In Through the Outdoor, though, Hot Dog, Fool in the Rain, like those are strong tracks. Yeah. And for me, I would rank it above Presence.
That's really interesting take.
That's fair.
I love it.
All right, Losier, bringing out the fire. I like it.
Okay, so you've given me a lot to think about, Dan. The one thing it's always hard to say like best and worst or most favorite or least favorite artist. Like for me, it's fluid and it changes. And like when I've had periods of time where I've had the opportunity to sit down and listen to discogs, like a band's discography from start to finish, I find different things that I that I like about it at that time. And like my ranking of albums for artists that I have a lot of time for, like bands like Zeppelin and Sabbath and Floyd, it's like a constant race. It's like a never ending.
I agree.
But you know, this is hot takes, so I can't just sit on the fence. So I love Zeppelin 3, and I agree with everything you said about that, Dan. I love Zeppelin 4. I agree with everything you said about that, Matt. I love Zeppelin 1 and 2 for the obvious reasons. But at the moment, my favorite Zeppelin album, which I think I neglected for a long time, I just kind of I underappreciated, is Physical Graffiti.
It's so good.
It's not a surprising pick.
It's a beast of an album.
It really is.
You know, it's a double LP of just cream of the crop. And like you said, Dan, they were pushing themselves to try new sounds. You know, it was 1975, so they're that's quite a time from when they released their first album. And there's just, you know, like The Rover, Trampled Underfoot, Cashmere. Like, I know Cashmere's been overplayed.
For me, this is a hot take on that album, Down by the Seaside.
Dude, I was just going to say that.
When they go from the breakdown and then it goes back into the guitar riff, it's the smoothest transition in any Zeppelin song. And that gets me every single time.
The thing is, so too, you can listen to this album because of the scale of it. You can listen to it like 10 times in a row and find a different appreciation point each time you're listening to it. So that's why at the moment it's on the top of the tree for me. Yeah. It's on the Rushmore of Zeppelin albums for me.
Yeah. In My Time of Dying, another beast of a song.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, man.
I do think it's weird that Houses of the Holy ended up on this album and not on Houses of the Holy.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
That is a bit weird, but hey, it is what it is. It's a fantastic song.
Yeah. I'm not actually sure why that is. But I actually only got a copy of this recently on vinyl, like maybe last year. I picked up a Japanese.
I only got mine in the summer.
But yeah, great album. And then Dan, for the simple fact that I love Achilles' Last Stand so much, I can't put Presence at the bottom of the ladder, even though, you know, it's down there. But for me, and I'll explain this, my least favorite Zeppelin album is In Through the Outdoor, and it's because I don't think it's a Zeppelin album. Like, to me, it's a John Paul Jones album, and it's too far removed from Zeppelin's core sound that I prefer to think of it as a John Paul Jones album than to categorize it. And then if I did that, Presence would be at the bottom, because I just think it's so far removed from the Zeppelin sound.
That is the hot take that I'm here for.
That's fair, yeah.
Appreciate that you said that, because you're right. I mean, for the most part, Zeppelin was always mostly produced by Jimmy Page, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion, like, you can talk about all the guys in that band and them being at the absolute top. Like, they could all be on let's talk about it again, the Mount Rushmores of singers, guitar players, drummers.
Yeah.
Great. The best musician in the band was John Paul Jones.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Hands down.
Multi-instrumentalist. And that album, for various reasons, that was Plant and John Paul Jones driving that album. So, but really the influence of John Paul Jones is strong on it, and yeah, it just feels like a different vibe.
Yeah, it totally does. I agree with you.
Christopher, over to you.
As you've probably noticed, I'm pretty quiet on this topic. I'm not like a Zeppelin fan, which
that's a hot take.
Right.
That is a hot take. Which I knew about you too, Chris, and I think we debated this a lot.
This is new information.
Yeah, it's not that I don't like Zeppelin. I think I brought it up in like the group chats before. It's just like, I love my dad, sweet dude, but when he gets into like albums, he plays the same songs over. He's as bad as Canadian radio. He plays the hits over and over again. And as I'm hearing you guys talk about all this, like these other songs, half of them, I was like, do you know what? the name sounds familiar, but I couldn't even tell you like what the song's about or how it even sounds, what the melody is. The only album, Zeppelin album I go back to constantly is 4. It's just it's the only Zeppelin album I have in my collection, and it gets played all the time. And it's one of those ones I don't get sick of. So for that, my hot take is I can't pick one that I don't like because I haven't actually, and it's my ignorance, I haven't dived into the genre. Because I just know, the radio hits, and then the best of Columbia House CD that we had when I was, in elementary school, that was played during dinner, right? So definitely hearing it now, I'm sure the group chat is going to flood in of where to start, just like
recommendations,
just like when we jumped in with the Rolling Stones, where it was the same thing. I kind of was like, I know this album, and that's my whole Rolling Stones collection sort of thing. So that's my hot take. Is I guess I need to open myself up to more Zeppelin, and I was gonna just pick a random album and see what you guys thought, but I thought that would be disingenuous of me.
I was almost prepared to hear your favorite album being Presence, because that is a Chris Palumbo move. It'd be like, I like this genre of music, I don't like that genre of music.
Yeah, right. Which is this wheel. That was the only topic. I was like, and I knew it was going to land on it. Look, I even have this like ready.
Nice, ready to go.
It was the one I didn't want. I was so ready for U2, and I was so ready for best song. And I was
so the one thing I will say with like Zeppelin is I think honestly the best songs of theirs aren't even played on the radio.
Yep.
Agreed.
Like there's so many good
point.
There's so many like bomb songs that have probably never touched, like a lot of people probably don't even know them because they've never, they don't hear them on the radio, which is kind of sad because it's their biggest body of work. Some of their best body of work. One song that sticks out to me is Going to California. It's funny. There's a funny story. I was listening on a podcast early last week, and it shows up at the end of Entourage as the show's kind of wrapping up. And as you guys probably know, Led Zeppelin's very, very cautious with how they license their music out to other shows or commercial advertisements and stuff like that to feature their songs. And this was one of the few that they actually let happen because they presented it to them all at the same time. I guess this is something that this is just one way that they kind of work. They all have to know that they're all getting it at the same time. One's not getting more than the other one. And they agreed to let it fly. And then once the episode aired, it ended up becoming one of the most Shazam songs in that time period. And it actually, what's really cool is it kind of opened up the band's eyes to see, wow, there's actually still this market for our music in the modern age. So they've been a little more friendly with licensing out their songs as of late. The only other film that kind of sticks out to me where they've allowed their music to be played is Almost Famous, when they're on their way to New York City. What you got, Tom?
School of Rock, Jack Black.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. Sorry,
song.
I forgot about that.
So
that's
good.
my bad. Yeah,
actually, the story behind that is that knowing that Zeppelin had reluctance to give away copyrights to their songs for film, Jack Black during one of the scenes where he's playing the show at the venue at the end of the movie, he presented a video to release to Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, who had the rights to that song at the time, and saying, and basically like pleading to them, and you can actually find this on YouTube. It's like,
that's cool.
And then it's saying like, please let us have the rights to this song. It would make this scene so epic. And then it's Jack Black playing Immigrant Song.
Amazing.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing.
And so that when Jimmy and Robert Plant saw it, they're like, yeah, this is a movie about rock and roll. What Jack Black is saying, like, a movie about rock and roll needs to have a Zeppelin song in it, and to me, the Zeppelin song needs to be in there as Immigrant Song. And then he starts singing Immigrant Song, and he actually, in Jack Black fashion, absolutely nails it.
So nice. Good. I love him, and I love that movie.
Yeah. Movie. He's been all over the internet lately. He's great.
He's hilarious. His social media is hilarious.
Yeah, I was so excited. Star Wars Day, he did some good stuff.
Oh, I didn't see that. I got to see that.
Check out his Instagram. It's
Everybody
outrageous.
check out the other Groovy Guys podcast where we just talk about Jack Black all day.
Yeah, that can be a whole episode. Oh, that would be a good episode.
Jack, if you're listening, please come on the show.
Yep. That's awesome.
Right. Wow. That first hot take was fire. I loved that.
Yeah, that was good.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Has anyone got anything else? Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
I think I'm good, guys. I think we got it all out there.
Yeah, my only thing would be more suggestion songs for Zeppelin for Chris to listen to, but I mean, we could talk about that in the chat.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
Yeah,
Or maybe
user
maybe our
generated.
listeners and subscribers can send
Throw
through.
some suggestions for sure.
We'll start we should start a Spotify playlist that's like songs Chris should listen to.
One final thought from me. This whole vinyl chat thing has been, and now the podcast has been just, and I hope my wife's not listening, but has been terrible for my bank account. I told you guys the other day, like, what are we? We're in
dude.
May. We're in May, and I had a look at my Discogs for recent editions. I've bought more than 40 albums so far this year.
Yeah, I'm up there too. So before we even started doing this vinyl challenge, Chris can attest to this. I sent him a message one day. It was near the beginning of the year, and I must have had like 15 or 16 in just the one lot that I picked up the one day.
Oh my goodness!
And I'm right up there with you, Tom. I it's like as much fun as it is. It's like the bank account. You know, it's taking a bit of a beating. We need to pump the brakes a little bit.
It's a sickness.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, it definitely is. Tom, that you sent it to the group, the auction in Brantford that's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got like pages of bids going on.
Oh my goodness!
Nice.
That's awesome.
How many are you winning right now?
Only two. I thought it was Matt I was competing with, but there's a Star Wars: The Clone Wars vinyl on there that they're pretty hard to find. And I thought it would be pretty cool to have in.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've been going back and forth, and I sent Matt a text. I'm like, Matt, please tell me you're not bidding on this.
Not me, man. If it was me, I would tell you.
Oh, my neighbors are mad.
So in a few episodes' time, and we talk about recent purchases, Matt's going to hold up Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
And just
Yeah.
just giving me the
Middle
finger.
finger, yeah.
So far, I'm only winning Who's Next, an original pressing of Who's Next,
Oh,
Nice.
nice. We're
and
after that.
a couple Willie Nelson albums, as you guys recommended to me a couple weeks
Redheaded
ago.
Stranger.
Stardust?
I think Stardust is on there. I can't see what albums they
That's his
are.
best
It
one
just
for sure.
says Willie Nelson ×3 and then Kenny Rogers ×3, and I'm like, man, there's got to be some bangers in there. So I'm
The Kenny Rogers, when he went through his like psychedelic phase, like that one just dropped in from the Lebowski, from the Big Lebowski, is such
nice.
a good song.
yeah, and then Frampton Alive. I'm also bidding on.
That's a good one.
Nice.
I know.
I think that's an essential for a classic rock.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
You guys were saying that, and it's one that I didn't have, and it keeps popping up on that playlist, and every time I'm just like, this is solid. So yeah, I'm trying, but they're getting up there. Plus on auction sites, I don't know if you guys know, but you have to pay like a percentage
Yeah.
on top of
Bitters fee, yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
So, like,
seriously?
That's how they make
so
the
it's
money.
like 12 or 13% plus taxes.
Yeah. It
That's
gets
steep.
expensive, yeah.
Yeah,
I was
that's
bidding on a guitar amp, and I was like, oh, this is a great price. I can get it for $500. And it's like, no, plus 13% HST, plus 13% on top of that.
Jeez.
This is like, I can actually find it cheaper, on Kijiji somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
I wouldn't go too hard at those Willie Nelson albums, Chris. They're pretty common. If you can get them cheap, obviously.
Upstairs is banging around. If they wake the baby, I'm just going to carry her upstairs and just be like,
Here you go. This is yours now.
this is yours. You deal with Beta.
All right. On that note, has anyone got anything else?
I'm good on my end, boys.
Okay, so that's a wrap for Crate Expectations, Episode 1, Introduce Yourself. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll be back next month with another episode from the Groovy Guys collection. Thanks for listening.
Cheers.